Indiana was part of the Northwest Territory ceded to England by France in 1763 after the French and Indian War. The French had explored and claimed all the land north of the Ohio River and west of the Mississippi. Between 1700 and 1750, they built trading posts, forts, and missions along the major rivers, but most of their activity was centered around the Great Lakes. The present limits of the state were surveyed in 1809. The last major Indian War in Indiana began in 1810 and ended in November of 1811, when General Harrison defeated the Indians at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Much of the fighting during the War of 1812 took place in Indiana. Indiana Territory became a state and was admitted into the Union in 1816. By the 1830s, the United States government had moved most of the Indians west of the Mississippi River. The state offers numerous locations for the treasure hunter, regardless of what type of treasure he is seeking. An overlooked treasure site is that of an Indian treasure in Floyd County, Indiana. The man that can remember the following story is still living at the age of 83. Albert Schuler was 20 years old when a middle-aged Indian came to his father's home near Greenville, Indiana, and asked permission to search for a cave full of silver bars that had been left by his ancestors somewhere in the area in 1820. Given permission to search, the Indian spent several days on the farm, always looking for a large oak tree, which was a starting point. Almost ready to stop searching, the Indian finally asked Schuler's father if he could remember such a tree with a deer's head carved into it. The elder Schuler remembered hearing his father tell of such a tree and markings. The tree had been cut down years before, but Schuler recalled where he had been told it stood. The Indian began searching again, and a few days later told the elder Schuler that he had found what he was looking for. Before leaving, the Indian said he would return in a few days. About a week later, he returned with 20 to 30 Indians. They asked the elder Schuler if they could have a barbecue and explore the cave. The Schuler family watched the Indians butcher a beef and build fires, around which they danced for hours. 2 days later, the Indian that had first visited the Schulers stopped by the farmhouse. The other Indians had disappeared. The Schulers never knew when they left or what they took with them, and told the family that he was leaving, but if they could find it, there was enough silver left to shoe every horse in Indiana. Schuler and his family searched the next several days. All they found was a large empty hole the Indians had dug, apparently after dark, because the Schulers had not seen the diggings. The Indians were never seen again. It wasn't until several years later that a cave was discovered about a mile from the Schulers' farmhouse. The cave was exposed when spring rains flooded the area. As far as I can learn, the cave was explored only once. It has since fallen in, and no one knows if the Indians obtained the silver from this cave or dug it up elsewhere. The story has been in the Schuler family for over 60 years. If the Indian told the truth, and he had no reason to lie, after he and his companions apparently took what silver they needed with them, either in the cave or close by, a fortune in silver bars is still hidden. A cave known locally as Little Goss Cave was named for one Hugh Goss, its first owner. Little Goss Cave is near Greenville, about 3 miles off Highway 150 on Route 335. The cave has 2 entrances and 3 levels. From a lookout point above the lower entrance, 1 man could hold off an army. The spot was a perfect place for outlaws. Tradition has it that the Reno gang of train robbers used the cave as a hiding place. The gang is believed to have hidden money from robberies in or around the cave. Indians also lived in Little Goss Cave at one time. Several Indian mounds are in the vicinity, and numerous native artifacts have been found near the cave. No one can decipher the symbols chiseled on a large rock at one of the entrances to the cave. No one knows whether the horseshoe, star, footprint, left handprint, arrow, and circle were carved there by Indians or outlaws, but it is quite probable that they were directions to something hidden, possibly treasure. The cave and land around it are now owned by Edmund Derbeck, who does not permit anyone to examine the places of interest on his property without permission. About 1775, during a raid, a band of roving Indians took a keg of silver coins from one of the settlers. They buried the keg on the banks of a creek, which later came to be called Silver Creek. This sachet was supposed to be 5 miles upstream from the mouth of the creek. Early settlers tried to find the coins. General George Rogers Clark believed the story of the buried coins, and his first cabin in Indiana overlooked the Ohio River near the mouth of Silver Creek. Navigators on the Ohio River during the 1840s to 1870s used to remark, "Yonder range of hills is supposed to be rich in silver ore, which may be found in the banks of the creek as well." Men have searched for both the silver ore and the keg of coins, but no find has been reported. Prior to the Indian War in Indiana, 1810 to 1811, an uneasy peace existed between the white men and the red. About 1807, Absalom Fields lived in the vicinity of McBride's Bluff in what is now Martin County. He was friendly with a band of Indians living near Indian Creek, a tributary of the White River. One night, he was awakened by two Indians and told, "No light, you come. We no hurt you. We take you and show you something." The Indians blindfolded him, turned him around several times, led him some distance, then took him aboard a canoe. Since the stream was low and the canoe could be paddled in either direction, Fields never knew whether they went up or downstream. The Indians landed the boat and conducted him a short distance along a trail into a large cavern, where they removed his blindfold. There were several Indians present, including squaws and children. Some kind of metal and the ore from which it came was shown to him, and the Indians said it was silver. Several small bars were in a pile. They were about 6 inches long, 2 inches wide, and half an inch thick, and had been formed with a crude flaring mold. Fields was given 3 of the bars, and then blindfolded again and taken back to his cabin. After that incident, he spent countless hours trying to retrace the route to the hidden cave. Years later, on a trip downriver to New Orleans by flatboat, he met one of the Indians who had lived near McBride's Bluff. The Indian remarked, "If white men only knew it, he could shoe horses as cheaply with silver as with iron." Fields asked the Indian where the silver might be found. All the Indian would say, "You stand on big bluffs, look away south over Big Bottom. Maybe it's that way, maybe not. Don't forget to look down under you. Maybe down there, maybe not. White man never finds. He heap too big fool. Dig till he most finds it and quit. Paleface never find." Symbols were chiseled on a large rock directly below the highest point in the bluffs to indicate where the silver was hidden. There was a half moon, a star, and a crawling snake with its head pointed towards the treasure cave. Fields kept the silver bars. One of them was in the possession of a descendant until a few years ago. The cave of precious metal still waits some paleface who has not eaten big food. In 1921, George Dutch Anderson and Gerald Chapman robbed a mail truck in New York of $1,424,139. Only $27,000 of this was in cash. Not wanting to sell the securities at a loss of 40% on the dollar, the two bandits went to Muncie, Indiana, where they converted only $100,000 worth of them into cash. On the way back to New York, they were caught and given 25 years each in the penitentiary in Atlanta. Chapman escaped, but was apprehended 2 days later. Later, Anderson escaped, went to a farm outside Muncie and killed the owners, Ben House and his wife, then burned the house on their bodies. He was killed in Michigan a short time later. Anderson was hanged April the 5th, 1926. Nothing has ever been learned of the almost $900,000 left in securities from the robbery. It is almost certain that they were buried along with some of the cash near the House farm. Anderson and Chapman both were city men. They would have not gone far from the house to bury the money. The money is probably still where they hid it, waiting for some lucky treasure hunter to come along. Scientists believe that the Wyandotte Caves and the Harrison Crawford State Forest on Highway 62 were used by Indians up to 1500 AD. In the Senate chambers of the Big Wyandotte Cave, an area of approximately 1,000 cubic feet, Indians mined some kind of unknown mineral before the white men came. Stories of these Indian mines have been told in Crawford County since the days of the earliest pioneers. About 1900, the Wyandotte Caves were on land owned by a man named Rothrock. 3 counterfeiters used the caves without his knowledge. Accidentally learning of the nefarious activities, Rothrock took several men with him one night and surprised the counterfeiters. A gunfight followed, in which one of the gang was killed, another was captured. The third man ran back into the cave with part of the counterfeit coins and was never seen again. Money molds, a small smelter, and a quantity of silver ore was found, but the captured outlaw would not tell where they had obtained the ore. The source of the silver has never been found.